And we are live! Or rather, I should say, army hearties and welcome landlubbers to this here stream about pirates! Yes, today we are talking about pirates, and look at my beautiful guests! How are you doing, guys?
Fantastic.
Doing pretty well, doing pretty well.
Dude, we are good.
You are good.
Oh no.
Everyone here appreciates the puns. I want to see more puns. Chat, lay me up with your best pirate puns. I want to see them. No need for the pungeon. I will enjoy them all. Insurgent Owl Production says, I am here to talk about pirates. You're in luck because so are we. We're going to be chatting about what's appealing about pirates, pirate tropes, good things about pirates, bad things about pirates, things to watch out for with pirates, things that could maybe upset your novel or your game and take away from the fun. We don't want that. We want things to be awesome. And yeah, what people should get wrong, pitfalls to avoid. So that is what we're discussing today. But before we get that far, let me introduce my fantastic guests. I have here Frank and Andrew from Event.Cruises. They do amazing things. They run incredible events. Andrew, tell us just a smidgen about what we could expect on an Event.Cruise.
Ooh. So Event.Cruises, we were formerly known as just GACUCON, and we've become Event.Cruises because we're offering 3 sailings, including the D20 RPG cruise, the GACUCON gaming and cosplay cruise, and then the battle barge for my war gamers out there to do some Warhammer, some X-Wing, any of that kind of fun tabletop wargaming stuff. So 3 cruises on Event.Cruises, doing fun stuff at sea.
So just to recap that, GACUCON is the general cruises, gaming of all kinds, board games, video games. If it's got game in the title,
Virtual
it's there.
reality, yeah.
Cosplays,
And some
VR,
cosplay.
yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
more like a big old geek summer camp.
Spoiler alert, Dimmy and I went to Geek Summer Camp. That was GACUCON. We were just there and we had such a blast. We played so much D&D. It was amazing. We ran games, we played games, we read books. It was glorious. And then you have Battle Barge, which is like Warhammer 40k, right? That kind of stuff.
Yep, that's where we're going to get some tabletop wargaming going on for that audience, which is fun. I personally play,
Awesome.
So, a little bias.
Nice. Okay, and I guess like painting and stuff as well. Is that part of the
So
fun?
you met Impending Duff, who's a painting instructor that we took aboard. He'll be there running some games and teaching how to paint. So always fun.
Amazing. And then finally, of course, the best of them all.
Oh, the D20 cruise. Yes, that's where we get to see you wonderful folk again. So that's April 19th for the D20 cruise. That one is specifically focused on tabletop RPGs, but we're trying to set up one of the largest Adventurers League activities at sea. So that's kind of in the works. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. I always love D&D and role-playing games, really flex the creative muscles and well, of course we get to see you guys again. So,
yeah. So it'll be like Adventurers Leagues over the sea. Like
yes.
20,000 Adventurers Leagues over the sea. That's the plan here, right?
There we go. I
what
like
we're
that.
Going
Perfect.
Amazing. Okay. And now a little bird told me that some of our beans here might be interested in that you guys are hiring GMs. Is that correct?
We are. Yeah, we actually just put the post up yesterday. So we're looking for 2 Adventure League organizers to help us manage that, and then up to 26 Dungeon Masters that have some Adventure League experience, or at least can explain to us why they are good fits for it. And then we're basically going to cover the cabin, the gratuities. They should be in LA, so we're looking in that area. But if they happen to be in LA at time of sailing, they can go on the boat and there'll be a dam. So it's a paid gig too. So we keep it premium.
Very exciting. So folks, how should they apply if they are interested to apply for paid GMing work?
Event.Cruises, and then look for our career section at the bottom, and then we have 2 job postings up there now, and then we're going to probably take about a month and then take as many of them as we can and get on a boat.
Get on a boat. I love it. Let's play some D&D on a boat. So my beans, if you are interested in that, I think my amazing stream fairies will grab that link so you can go and follow that. But yeah, paid GMing work. Just saying, these guys giving back to the GMing community. They're doing it right. Just saying. So we have sadly lost Frank, but I will introduce Andrew, and hopefully Frank is going to come join us again really, really soon. I think he had a little bit of an internet wobble. So Andrew, I will introduce properly, is one of the co-founders of Event.Cruises, including the GACUCON game cruise, the D20 and RPG cruise, the Battle Barge wargaming cruise as well, that you just heard about. He's traveled the world and dragged his hobbies along with him as a game master, painter of minis, and most recently, a 3D printing adept. Not lying, guys. I've seen the goods. They're beautiful. You can find him at CruiseDrew on Twitter. So yeah, go and check out Andrew and his awesomeness.
Yeah, be my friend.
Sorry?
Be my friend. Let's go.
Go be Andrew's friend. Andrew is one of the friendliest people in the RPG space. Honestly, just such a pleasure to hang out with.
That's so nice.
But let's talk pirates.
Yes.
And we're gonna kick off with really the crux. Why pirates? What's fun about pirates? Why do we love pirates?
Why do we love pirates? I know for us, it's just kind of unlimited adventure in a single word when you say pirate, right? Just the horizon in front of you, it's just you and your crew doing what you need to do and survive, find loot, just kind of the best things that we expect on adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the interesting things about playing pirates, part of the fun of playing pirates, is you get to be the bad guys, but not really.
That's right. I think so. Yeah, right. Yeah, because like one person's pirate is another one's like freedom fighter or explorer. It's kind of like the duality of that role, right? It's all perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And there's that feeling of freedom fighters. There's that feeling of like the mischievous rascal or the romanticized swashbuckler, right? There's so many flavors of pirate that are not all bad, or even can be viewed like the freedom fighters, like you mentioned, as really good. So it gives us this like, we're bad and we're doing bad things, but are we really? Like, that you can really play that gray line, that like anti-hero line, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. That's a fun part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said, another part of the fun about pirates is travel, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, aside from being sea pirates, right? Like you could have space pirates, you could have interdimensional, like the Spelljammer setting coming out for D&D. There's a lot of ways you can slice it. It's not limited to the sea per se, but generally that's where we think of it. There's going to be like some kind of open expanse, and you have that isolated feel with you and your crew, and then the encounters that you experience along the way, be it a mysterious asteroid or island or another set of sails on the horizon. There's always just something over there that you could find when you come around the curvature of the world, so to say.
Yeah, I absolutely. It's that feeling of kind of boundless exploration that's baked into the concept,
Yeah, I see here someone said ice pirates. I like that.
I love it. I think another thing is that the ship is also part of the crew, right? Like that's something else that you see in pirates, is that you have a ship and the ship basically becomes a character.
It really does. I think that because it grows with the player party, or along with the story, right? Because it's integral. The group, the party isn't going anywhere without that ship. So it can evolve and expand with them on the journey, right? And then they start to take it more personally when the big Kraken comes up and rips the mast off. You're like, no, we got that upgraded mast, or we've been with it for so long through these adventures and now it's gone. Or if if it sinks or you lose the ship, that's gotta hurt. That's like losing a party member.
Yeah, totally. And like party members, it's shaped by the adventures. Like bits get knocked off, maybe it has a burn mark on the back, like things can happen. But it also has its own side quests. Like, we need to fix the boat before we sink is a legitimate side quest to go to a port. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you want to put a flame under the players, let them know that the ship's filling with water.
Yeah, absolutely. Or they're running out of supplies, which is the other thing that you can do in a pirate adventure that is difficult to do elsewhere.
Ooh, very true. Yeah, I guess the survival component, right? Because like they do that on overland travel and all that, but the ship takes it to like the extreme where up a river without a paddle, almost literally in a lot of these cases. Like if you don't plan for it, you're really out there in the middle of nowhere. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, totally. And that gives pressure and conflict, which gives story and excitement, right? Like we talk about that a lot on the stream, on this podcast, the idea that, with conflict, you drive the story. And I think that that's something that the parameters of ships are great for.
Yeah, I mean, the conflict that you could drive around there is, like you mentioned, the supplies. You can have unknown threats that are kind of like endangering you or the crew directly, or the ship. There's just so many opportunities for it that it's probably one of my favorite settings. Of course, that's kind of biased. Of course, we do ship stuff, but maybe that preceded it.
one of the things you mentioned, I have a little story for. So you talked about how the adventures in your ship and the adventures that you go along kind of shape the way that you feel about the ship. We I play a pirate game every other Friday, and we killed a fish with a giant horn on the front, and then we attached it to our ship as a battering ram.
That's awesome.
So now we have a ship with massive battering ram,
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
because our GM is really lenient and loves our chaos, but also it's true. But it's also a way that you can manifestly see the adventures that have happened. Do you know what I mean? Like you build those adventures physically onto the ship to remember them.
Yeah, it's like a visual history that you get along with it. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
I love my cosmetics in all kinds of games. So let alone if you let me customize a ship with everyone and have a living history, that's amazing. That's ambrosia to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also great for player rewards to be like, oh, the reward for this quest is a better mast, or we've souped up the armor on your ship or something. That's a real tangible reward that affects the whole party, not just one or two members who the magical item fits.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yep. I was going to say, I think with part of that is I really like when not only does it give the visuals, but you have some functions that you can do as a group. So
Yeah.
like say spaceships, right? Like it's usually a common one where you have someone who's a navigator, someone in communications, medical. So it's kind of like adds a little subclass layer to most of the games, or a function to people outside of whatever their inherent skills may be.
Yeah, the hierarchy was one of the other things that I was going to talk about as well. Like it's something that gives a really unique set of interesting social conditions to a party. Like when you're all equal, the face is the face and the tank is the tank, and the rogue sneaks around and gets into trouble and the paladin gets him out, and that's fine. It's got its own sort of set of tropes. But when you have the captain or the first mate and the navigator, they all have their own roles, and that doesn't just add flavor, that can add interesting social structures. When the captain says something and somebody doesn't obey, well, that's got interesting ramifications, right?
That's a conflict.
Yeah. Exactly. So there's a whole sort of social aspect to pirates that I think is also fascinating. I want to take the opportunity to welcome Frank back. Welcome back, Frank. How are you doing?
Mini heart attack there, blue screen of death for a second.
No.
Yeah, I guess my computer doesn't like to do one thing at a time. It's used to everything open.
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. No, it's you need a bit of a beast to have all the things open at once. It's a problem. So, Frank, let me introduce you now, since you have come back. I didn't want to introduce you when your beautiful face was not on the screen. Frank Velasquez is one of the co-founders of the Game Cruise and warden of the digital realm, despite the blue screens. You'll usually find him on the website chat, guiding future adventurers to their voyage ahead. So, Andrew and I have just been talking about what's appealing about pirates. Why do we like pirates? Why are they fun? What did we cover so far? I think exploration was one, and the idea of being like away from the law. But what appeals to you about pirates, Frank?
I mean, I'm not a murder hobo per se, but the idea that straight from the beginning, you kind of know you can be a rascal.
Yeah.
Right, and be mischievous, by being a pirate. That's one of the bigger things, and the openness of like the worlds, and I guess the capabilities that you have is I think would be one of the things that attracts me the most about that realm, per se, right?
Yeah,
the age of exploration and pillaging.
Yeah, I think funny that you mentioned Age of Exploration, because that's something that's so tied to the idea of pirates. Like there were ancient Greek pirates, there were Vikings were basically pirates. There are a lot of different kinds of pirates that exist. But when we think of pirates in the modern media, we think of Age of Exploration, 18th century, frilly shirts, eye patch pirates. Which brings me on to pirate tropes. What are pirate tropes that we can dig into to make it feel pirate? This is something that it's important in a book. It's really important in an RPG game, because you don't have paragraphs of prose to get people into it. You only have a couple of touchstones, visual, audio, senses kind of stuff, before you say, okay, roll for initiative, what are we doing? So how do we make it feel pirate? Good pirate tropes.
So from my perspective on that, good pirate tropes that you can kind of like get that quick jump for the players to understand it is kind of like the ragtag band on a less than pristine ship or vessel or whatever it is. It's because if not, then you'll be thinking like, oh, it's a naval ship. But if you start describing it as something that's worn down and the crew is in mismatched attire and they're kind of like battle scarred up, you kind of start to get the idea pretty quickly, like, oh, these are not naval officers that have a form of etiquette that we know of in civilization.
Yeah,
Yeah,
putting
it's that,
funky smells and whatnot.
Yeah.
it's that like grittiness, that griminess that's really part of that aesthetic, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Even with the eye patches, right? That was I had only recently learned that they used eye patches even if they weren't missing an eye. So that kind of surprised me.
Yeah,
And
it's
they
a night vision thing, right?
exactly right. So I guess only the human pirates have that. Everyone else with dark vision, they don't need to do the pirate eye patch aesthetic.
So the idea essentially, as I have heard it, is that when you went below decks and it was very dark, you could flip up your eye patch and then you would have one good eye that you could always see even in the dark and not have an issue.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
how I
that's
understood it.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understand it too. It's pretty crazy to think about that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense though when you think about like when we talked about you kind of set it sail and you have what you have on board with you. So they were very practical from what I've learned about pirates over time, like the eye patch situation of going under deck and being able to see in the dark, or the earwax plugs that they would put in their earrings. Like basically they would duct tape things enough and survive that it started becoming part of their apparel, and like things may look disorganized, but generally it has a purpose, right? Because you can only take so many things aboard with you.
So tell us about the ear wax, the wax thing, because I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So apparently cannons are deafening. So pirates over time had learned that to reduce that, they would take balls of wax and leave it tied to either their earrings or their hair. And they knew that when they were firing, they could kind of plug them in to reduce some of the, basically ear protection. So it was pretty interesting that they would use that.
That is so cool. I had never heard that. That's really interesting. It's funny that you mentioned eye patches, which is of course one of the real iconic symbols. But I think like eye patches, hooks for hands, peg legs, all kinds of prosthetics, right? In a way, it feeds into the same idea as the grimy aesthetic. It's we are not pristine. We have seen action. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also the use of like familiars, right? Like having like pets around or whatever, like monkeys and little parrots and whatnot.
I think that's one of the really easy ways to show that these people have traveled. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just pets, it's exotic pets. And that's a really good way to be like, yes, okay, I'm in the Mediterranean, but I have a monkey or a parrot or a tiger on my ship. Probably not a tiger, maybe a tiger.
Maybe. Yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, that kind of feeds into the idea of like showing that these people are not the normal. They're not a disciplined band of soldiers. They're a bunch of free-spirited ragtags, right?
Yeah, very individualistic, right? So you stand out head and shoulders above the crowd by showing off more of your wealth, more of your scars, more of your exotic things that you pick up along the way. And then who doesn't love, little pets with them?
Yeah, 100%.
Or tigers for Janet. There's that.
What can I say? I'll just be in the corner with my pet tiger. Life of pieing it up. Or life of pirates, as the author goddess has said.
No, I love it.
I salute you. Grog. Pirate trope. Grog and rum. What do you think?
Yum.
Yum and yum.
Yeah. What do you think, Frank, on rum or grog?
I'm a rum guy, being part of the Caribbean crew, but grog, in those days, when things are waning and you have to, get inventive.
If I remember, it wasn't grog, like it was rum that was pretty much watered down and they started adding things to it. Because it was like you really can't get super clean fresh water out there. So they started like sanitizing the water with rum. I mean, why didn't that tradition carry forward? What's going on here? Where did we diverge in the timeline?
They sometimes served it with like lemon juice and sugar as well. So it wasn't always grog. Sometimes you had like a grog cocktail, apparently, which is hilarious to me because the idea of grog and cocktail is like polar opposites.
You would imagine,
it meant that like, oh, let's go get that ship, and they come mojitos. You know, it's like, all right, you know,
little umbrella in it.
Groquitos.
yeah, there you go,
Croquitos.
grogito.
Oh, that has to be a thing. That's happening.
That's happening. Yeah, definitely. And I think also sea shanties is the other one. Like that's something that feels very pirate to me as well.
Sea shanties. I mean,
Yeah, you gotta keep entertained, right? So,
Yeah.
really, this pre-TV, and they didn't even have D&D to play on the boat. So if you got something to do, you might as well sing and make things up, and then like rap battle essentially at sea.
Yeah. Any other pirate tropes that you've got?
So we covered what? Sea shanties, grog
I mean,
and drink,
I would say lots of jewelry, at least for like the ranking
Yeah.
captains. I think
bling.
since they couldn't take it, right, everything everywhere, they would just, you know, have extra earrings and things attached to them just because they take the treasures around.
Yeah, wear your wealth, right? Because you can't really
Wear your
store it
wealth.
anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Bling
that
and
makes sense.
tattoos, I think. And bright colors is the other thing that's often associated with pirates. Like a red headscarf or a bright jewel or something like that. Like these aren't people who wear black or dress like ninjas, right? These are people
Yeah.
who are quite ostentatious often.
I wonder if that came down to like their individualistic behavior and then like a form of branding at the time, right? Because you had to become like a famous sea pirate captain, you usually had an identifying trait.
Yeah.
So, you know, like Blackbeard and all that. And then you'd want to have something ostentatious to show off and be like, okay, when they see me again at sea, they're going to remember this.
Yeah.
Are you saying the pirates are great marketing people?
They are. Marketing people are pirates now.
Speaking about marketing, superstition is another one. If we think about messaging, like sailors are very superstitious traditionally anyway, but I think with pirates it sort of goes to new levels, if you see what I mean. So I think that's also something that's really interesting to play with.
Oh yeah, I 100% understand it too. Imagine if like you don't know much, like you start off your life young on a boat and you kind of just grow up into that life, and then you see something like a giant squid, like that's undoubtedly a kraken from like the deepest depths of the ocean. There's no events or buts. So like the supernatural, it just seems like it's a very easy way to explain some of the natural occurrences that are just freakish when it's outside of your norm out at sea, or in space or whatever it may be. So it's really interesting seeing how those kind of like developed and how much of a hand it had in like modern culture and lore that we have today, just from that. So thank you, pirates.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's also super great, right? Imagine like all the depth that religion gives a world, right? So put into the pirates, these people, you know, going island to island and then developing, you know, little outposts where like this old oracle lady you have to visit, you know, like it's all like a swamp area. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I
think that becomes even more interesting when you throw actual magic and actual fantasy into the mix as well, because pirates are left alone for large periods of time in a way that is very conducive to propagating myths and superstitions. For example, they considered scurvy a curse. I don't know if you knew that. That was, you know, like there was stuff that they believed that was magical or religious that other people believed was magical and religious, but there's also stuff that they believed was magical or religious that was quite sort of specific to them. And with the exploration element as well, they also came across a lot of different religions. So I think when you throw in the idea that like magic is real and there are actually gods stomping around the world, you'll end up with some really interesting stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you literally have like a Poseidon that you have to keep happy, you're gonna be pretty fervent in your altar to Poseidon for sure.
Yeah. But also like there's an unreliable narrator potential there. Like if you meet the pirates for the first time and they're like, oh yeah, there's this massive sea monster, and also if you don't throw salt over your shoulder, the devil will appear. Which of those two is true?
Yeah.
Because in D&D, it could easily be either of them.
Everything is true. Take everything at face value for sure when you have a magical world.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that's really interesting to play with. And speaking of travel and beliefs, treasure maps, right?
Treasure maps. Yeah, that's like the most direct form of a DM adventure hook that you could ever get. And you can even do a physical prop, right? Yeah, pretty much. Like you don't even have to seed it. You can literally just say like you dig, 4 inches deep in the dirt and you find a bottle with a treasure map in it or a map in it. Like immediately you're off to the races as far as like your party looking for whatever that thing is.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they are quest rewards, they are magic items, they are inherited treasures, they are, found loot. There's so many things that you can do with treasure maps that both reward and spur on the players. And ditto, like if you need an inciting incident in a story, good treasure map, off you go.
Toss it right in there. Yeah,
You know,
you know it's
Yeah.
gonna be
you know
too
what I
hard to
think I
pass
would
up.
do though? Like if I was living in like in a magical world and I was like a parrot there, I will make it my hard thing to do to find mimics and just spread out mimics and bury them everywhere, and just trick people.
That's your thing. You're the
Treasure!
mimic pirate.
Frank
There you
the
go.
Mimic Lord. I love it.
Oh man.
Uh,
Yeah.
I told you I play this pirate game, right? Our ship is a mimic.
Is it?
Oh,
Yes.
That's cool and terrifying.
My
Oh my God,
character
100%.
has started collecting them. It's going well.
You're living Frank's dream right now.
Right,
That's-
exactly. Okay, so we've talked about tropes, and tropes are awesome. Now let's talk about subverting the tropes. How can we take some of these tropes and make pirates that are just a little bit interesting? We've talked about unreliable narrators, but how about some other ways?
I guess in your world, right? Like people are gonna automatically assume things because of the tropes, and you can completely flip it on its head by making them like the lawful good ones out of the ocean, right? Versus like or at least like chaotic good versus say like lawful evil. So that's the difference, I guess, if you were to say like a privateer versus a pirate, and really just different brands of a thing. But most people, if you describe them as pirates, I think you can kind of pull it out and say like, no, these are legit, like the best people that you could meet. They're trustworthy. They have like the pirates code and they adhere to it. Things like that kind of help break it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest subversions that I've seen is that pirates don't need to be on the ocean. Sand pirates, space pirates, ice pirates, somebody was talking about. We talked about Vikings are basically pirates in different outfits. You don't need an ocean to have pirates. So if you're thinking, I want something fun, you can definitely do pirates and put in all the other tropes of pirates, but take away the ocean. They will still feel like pirates.
I got one. All right. How about this? It's an adventure where the players are set onto it to find these pirates that are rampaging across the countryside, but they find out they're just pirating manuscripts and things like that. They're bootleggers of media.
I love that idea. But again,
Oh,
like
wow.
this is the kind of fun, this is the kind of subversion you can have with this, because okay, so sometimes you get serious pirates, but mainly when we're talking about pirates, we're thinking, rollicking, good time adventure, right? So you can play with this, you can make it lighter and funnier. How about you, Frank? Subverting pirate tropes. Do you have any favorite subverted pirate tropes?
I like sand pirates a lot. Like I always what comes to mind is Mad Max is for sure a pirate film, set in a desert world. So like I love that like post-apocalyptic, just racing like old kind of fixed up vehicles going around and like fighting each other and like sea of sand, it's heat everywhere. Because I mean it's kind of the same, right? I mean you're kind of dehydrated, it's hot, it's grimy, like trying to find treasure and loot here and there to survive. So that'd be like one of my
You got the one sand pirate with 2 eye patches just doing donuts in the middle of nowhere.
There you go. Where are you going?
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's got all the trappings of pirate. It's got, semi-hierarchical structure, chaos, freedom fighters, weird amounts of drinking, nicking stuff from other people. It's pirates in the desert.
Yep. 100%.
I think the Reavers in Firefly were a really interesting idea of pirates because they made them into monsters, but they were still kind of pirates.
Yeah, really. They were terrifying how they positioned them. Like they take the ne'er-do-well of pirates and then crank it up to like 100.
They were like psychotic death space pirates.
Yeah. Those are the ones where it's like if you see that pirate flag anywhere or the Reavers coming, like get out of Dodge or just fight to the end.
Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting way to sort of flip pirates and take them from something that's quite Pirates of the Caribbean fun, which is of course our sort of classic view of pirates, Hook, classic view of pirates, and really make them into a formidable and terrifying adversary. That was a really nice example of that sort of really flipped on what we would consider its normal head.
Yeah, and that might be like more true to the original state of pirates versus the romanticized version we think about now as the, you know, the campy rascals, where it's like these were pretty much, you know, people that would do anything that they needed to do to survive. In our case, out at sea, but it could be anywhere in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in another vein, you could describe the Firefly crew as pirates.
Yeah, that's like a more calm version of pirates versus like the real crazy version of pirates.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
A little more
yeah.
structured.
It's like a scale of piracy and savagery that you work on.
Yeah, and I think again we were talking about what's the fun with pirates. I think the thing that Firefly does really well is it shows that you can do both. You can take commissions and be lawful, but you can also go off book and do things that are not legal or against, you know, the man. And that's something that's very interesting about pirates as well, that is again fun to subvert. Like where is the line? What will they do and what will they not do? Where is their code?
Yeah, I mean, aside from like the actual act of piracy, there really is a broad range that they can go from pretty much the good guys to like these are nightmares on vessels of whatever type.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, my brain just went blank. I'm so sorry. My brain is level flex computed.
You're there like
Oh, yeah.
in your new pirate world. There you go. That's what's happening.
The mimic ship got you.
Oh my god, it happens. I was thinking Star Wars, the Rebels, you know, that you could easily make pirates that had that kind of mission. You know, we're pirates, we have all the trappings of pirates, but we're trying to overthrow the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That for me, I always love that kind of thing where, you know, there's everyone's the hero in their own story, really. And it helps you kind of like flesh out the world around it. So it's like, yes, they're pirates to the, you know, the guild master that you're talking to giving you the quest, but when you actually meet them, they have their own goals, and they may actually be bad people or doing bad things, but they're doing it for good reasons, at least for their group, their village, whatever it may be. But in the end, they're still pirates and they're criminals and they're, you know, these things that you would expect them to be. But
well, I have a real life story about that. You know, like I'm from Venezuela, South America, right? And piracy kind of started there, like in the like mid 1500s or whatever. And the reason why piracy started was because of Spain was not returning gold that I guess Venezuela was giving, right? So I mean, pirates just went and started intercepting those colonial ships and taking their money back, you know. So I mean, that's
so they're just taking back what's owed to them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah. Demetrius has written me a very stern message that says pirates were started in 3000 BC in the Mediterranean.
Woo.
Nice.
That's right. Yep.
So just in case anyone was curious, that's when we believe piracy was started. But I think piracy is as old as you have a thing that I want, honestly. Like, It's interesting. There are actually different kinds of pirates. So they were legitimized pirates. Did you know this? There were pirates, like privateers were given a letter of marque, which was like, you can officially pirate if you do it to those guys over there. So they were like weaponized by nations. So this is something that you can also really play with. Like, they're pirates, but they're playing for the other team. And this is something that you see throughout the Middle Ages, for example, and throughout the 18th century, is that pirates were essentially weaponized.
Yeah, I actually really like that one too, because it's like, say you're with a group, and generally everything has been lawful good or like on track till then with whatever the nation is that you're working with, and then they kind of send you on a mission to work with said pirates, and like, okay, well, everything's been good, and now all of a sudden your allies, these pirates, are definitely not great people. Yeah. So it kind of puts a little bit of conflict in there. It's like, wait, hold on, do we stop them, which betrays the nation that we've generally been on good terms with, to help the enemy that we think are in the right case? Like, there's a good way of taking advantage of that whole, like, they're an evil that is justified for whatever purpose in that world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's such an interesting way, you know, playing between lawful good and chaotic good, and you know, players who just want to do things for money, that versus players who want to be good and don't know whether they should be lawful or you know, adhere to their own moral code. Like, there's really interesting dilemmas that you can set up here in books and games and other media, where you can really play play with, what is right? Is right what the law is right what I feel, is right helping out these poor people in front of me right now. So yeah, there's a lot of play there.
Yeah, they definitely like can spin the whole plot onto its head once you inject them into the story, for sure.
Yeah, if you're looking for a twist, that's twist gold.
They're the twist. Yep, you could either go with the trope or break it, and then no matter what, it's still a twist on the main campaign or story.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much interest there. Dimmy will not forgive me if I do not talk about the Knights of Malta. So the Knights of St. John was one of these sort of early crusading orders that really focused on healing people and protecting people in the early years. They were the Knights Hospitalier, hospital knights.
Okay.
And they started out in Rhodes, and then they started out in Jerusalem, and they got beat out of Jerusalem. So they went to Rhodes, which is an island in the Greek, what is in present day Greece. And then they got beaten out of Rhodes. So they ended up in Malta. But at a certain point, they also were employed with letter of marque to fight the Ottoman Empire. So, and keep them away from what was Christian Eastern Europe. So essentially these holy knights were paid money to go around bopping other people on the head and pillaging trade routes. So literally like just nicking things and being paid to do it by other people.
That's
insane.
Yeah, that's a webcomic waiting to happen, of like a boat full of paladins trying to do evil things.
But again, it brings up the idea of like, what is good? Do you know, like exactly what we were talking about? Here are some paladins pledged to God, and they're running around and hitting people on the head and nicking their stuff, right? Like that's anti-paladin stuff.
Yeah, they're like, you guys are breaking the narrative here. What's going on?
We're paladins, except against those guys.
Once we get on the boat, paladins off.
Oh, another great trope, pirate coves. How could we forget the ultimate headquarters?
That's right. That's the evil lair. Pirate coves.
Pirate coves and the things we hide in them. So smuggling as well.
Yeah, smugglers are like a pirate light, I guess, or like one of the main functions of piracy that can happen. I guess those are probably what pirates that are more socially savvy to set up smuggling deals.
Yeah.
And then the coves, posh pirates, yes.
Posh pirate. Oh yes, we're pirates, but only for brandy.
That's all they do.
Yeah, just a snifter of brandy.
Yeah. I think coves are what, like a good hub for everything to kind of come together and then introduce the player to like the glorious assortment of tropes that they can meet for pirates all in one place.
Yeah.
Well, question: what would you guys have on your own pirate cove? It will be like the one thing that you will hide there for sure.
A hatching nest of dinosaurs.
Oh, there you go.
Obviously, like a small dinoclaw egg clutch, just in the corner, just hanging out.
This is how Jurassic Park happens.
Oh my god.
Jurassic Pirate Park.
Jurassic Cove.
Or Jurassic Park.
There you go. Yeah.
Terrible.
Good.
So speaking of terrible things, what shouldn't we forget when we're world building pirates? What are our pirate must-haves? Now we've talked a lot about tropes. We've talked about subverting tropes. What, if you missed it, what would make it not a pirate for you?
For me, I guess they would have to have some clear purpose of how they ended up at sea or ended up there. Because most people didn't always like choose the pirate life, or if they did, they found out really quickly it's not like what you would romanticize about. So usually like the background that got them there can justify a lot of what they're doing and where they're going.
Nice. So background, motivation, reason. How about you, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking if they didn't feel like a group, like they're part of like a family or like a close knit
camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. Like camaraderie will be my main thing. If they didn't have that, then I mean, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, fair. I think for me, it's that uneasy relationship with the law, whatever that means. Like wherever they are on the spectrum, from we're slightly naughty pirates to the rivers that will literally eat your face off. Somewhere on that spectrum, there should be, okay, we don't want to meet the space police or the sea police or whatever it is. We are, to some level, we are tricksters and con artists all the way to, criminals. We are criminals when we're being pirates. And I think that's, for me, if you take that away, they're not pirates anymore. They're an adventuring group.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
true.
I can agree. Yep.
Yeah, right. You have to perform piracy to be a pirate.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we will be collecting audience questions, but that does take me on to my last question, which is, what do people get wrong about pirates? What are pirate mistakes that can make our game or our book less fun?
I got one thing. There's a meme going around of a panel for a children's book that says, remember the pirate code. Pirates don't take things from other people. And I'm like, that's the main thing from pirates.
I have seen that one. Yeah, basically, it's
Yeah.
right. If you're not a pirate if you're not performing piracy, so don't miss that.
Don't nerf your pirates. This is what we're
don't nerf
saying.
your pirates. Yeah, have them nick something, anything
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, steal an apple at least.
Yeah.
How about you, Andrew? What are sort of mistakes you've seen with pirates, or ways that they might become less fun?
Well, I guess in campaigns specifically are less fun is when you stop playing, piracy adventure and you start turning it into an accounting simulator for like beans and bullets and things like that on the boat. And it's like pirates, yes, they will have done this like to some degree if you want to like have the players simulated, but they're not as organized, like keeping ledgers, I'm sure, and you could probably get away with less of that. So just kind of run with the adventure aspect of it. Don't get stuck in the mud and the details there for piracy accounting.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. You're playing D&D because you're playing. If it becomes admin and nobody's enjoying it, then it's not fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how much salted pork do you need to bring on this voyage for 4 months?
Now, I will say that there are players who do enjoy that kind of stuff, and you can always have okay, you are the quartermaster. We will have a private session where we talk about what we need, and then you will tell the rest of the crew, guys, if we don't go somewhere soon, we will not have X or Y.
Absolutely, yeah. That's probably the best way to handle it.
There is a way to get around it. Like, I happened to know a player who I married, who loves this kind of stuff. Kingdom building, managing, all of that kind of like resources checking, that kind of stuff. Absolutely adores it, which is fine. So they do that, and then the rest of the group will just do the results of that. We'll do the story side of that. But yeah, if you force it on your players, they will leave your table, and that would be sad.
Some eyes will glaze over. Yeah, I like that. Put it off to the side, let people handle it. Like the ones who love to count it. The bean counters, let them count their beans.
No, yeah, exactly. Another way to manage that, if you want it to be important, but you don't want the players to handle it, or the players don't want to handle it, is give it to an NPC.
Okay.
So you can have the NPC who's the quartermaster, and then every week you can have the NPC go, so guys, if you're gonna fight anything, you're gonna be firing the cabin boy at them because we are out of cannonballs. So like, if it's really important to you as a GM, or if that's the kind of game you're playing, you could totally give that to a DMPC and then have them be an important person in the campaign who sends the captain off and advises the captain.
I've seen even reducing the complexity, instead of saying like you need these 1,200 items that you need to track meticulously, just to the base gold value. So kind of gives the player something to look at and be like, okay, well, gold's getting a little low to afford all the general things we need. And then how do we get more gold? Piracy.
Count all the things.
Count all the things.
I will lead the rebellion.
That is the voice of my player who really likes accounting.
He's the pirate accountant. That's
pirate accountant.
What do? They draw like a big Excel sheet on the lower deck of the ship, like candlelight.
You have no idea.
That's the planks of the ship itself. There are cells with information in it.
Just like tattooed on the back of the crew. Hey, where's 57B? Henrik!
We fired him out of the cannon. We were out of cannonballs.
You see, pirates, they cause chaos and we love it.
Yeah.
All right, so what people get wrong about pirates? I think anything that pushes players to do something they really don't want to do is not good. So when pirating goes from fun adventure to okay, you've just completely burned a village, and this is a live stream, so I'm going to say violently mistreated a bunch of people, and your players have not signed up for that, then there is a problem. So I think, levels of drama with pirates. If you want a super gritty, realistic, horrible pirate game, you need to let people know that in advance so that they know what flavor of pirates they're playing. We talked before about the spectrum of piracy. And if people think they're playing Pirates of the Caribbean and they end up playing the Reavers and they are not prepared for that, they are not going to have fun. And you are not going to have fun.
That's a heck of a plot twist.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm going off to steal some brandy from the rich French people. And it turns out that actually you're going off to, kill everybody in a village. Then that's a different adventure. So yeah, I would say that's my big thing about pirates is it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And whether you're writing or whether you're playing games, it's really important that like the tone is set and you stick largely to the tone that you're going for so that you don't end up, off on the Reavers spectrum by accident.
Subtle shifts.
Yeah,
that's 100%. That's true.
Demetrius just says, also talk about the fact they have democracy.
Pirate
Yes.
democracy.
I think Demetrius really wants to be in this live stream.
I think he's ready to be a pirate is what it is. Like
I think so.
we need to warn the captain at the D20.
I'm going to go into his office. He's going to be jumping into a dinghy and pushing it off the balcony or something.
He's in one of those inflatable hot tubs with the little ship.
Oh man, could you imagine? All right, let's have a look. ECC Books says, from our audience questions, I'm writing about a continent surrounded by a big old desert, but it does have rivers and one at sea. Any tips on incorporating river pirates or other unconventional types of pirates? Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
I like river pirates because they get more vectors to do piracy. So they can be on the river itself. They could be on the river sides, the mouth of the rivers, anything like that. So it gives you more terrain or setting to play with other than, Great Blue Expanse or Great Black Expanse out at sea. So you can get really creative with that, especially at, rivers to desert settings. Like deserts on their own can flow like rivers in some places, right? There's a whole quicksand thing. So it could be just as treacherous stepping off the river onto the nearby desert and then actually sinking into the land where the river would keep you afloat.
Yeah, 100%. I think that like with the like a lot of play with the changing of the terrain, makes pursuits even better. Running and trying to escape. You can use scenery everywhere. Use little canoes around.
Yeah.
So I love that. Like river pirating, pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a lane, right? Stick to your lane on the river.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I would always, specifically river pirates. I love river pirates. I add them to things that I write because I find them fascinating. But one of the things that I would say is it's much easier to ambush somebody on a river than it is on the sea.
Oh yeah.
Like you can do it on the sea. You can hide in a little cove or something and come at them in the night. But on a river, you can have river chains, you can have towers, you can have defenses, you can hide around the bend. If magic comes into play, there's all sorts of other interesting things that you can do. And they are literally channeled towards you as you lie in wait, right? Which is fantastic. So I think for me, if you're thinking about river pirates, it's all about strategy. It's all about how are they using this terrain to their advantage? How are they being prepared? And if they need to make a quick getaway because things have gone terribly wrong, how are they doing that?
Yeah, that would be excruciating. The pirates are ahead of you at like some kind of like blockade, and you're like, well, I guess we're just going to keep floating towards them.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's there's a lot of like really interesting things. But on the other hand, I think that having river police and river pirates, if you see what I mean, like there's an interesting space there too.
The police right behind you. How would that, like, you got pirates in front of you, you're stuck in the middle, police behind you. What do you choose?
Yeah. It's a pirate or a hot place.
Yeah.
Diabolical Twinkie asks, what do you think draws the line between pirates and a ragtag group of sailors? This is mainly from the thought of if you've seen The Sea Beast, the hunters could easily be compared to a group of pirates. I have not seen that movie. Have you guys?
Yeah.
No.
Great movie. Have children. Yeah. Netflix.
Okay. Frank, you're uniquely qualified to answer this question. What are your thoughts? What draws the line between pirates and a ragtag group of sailors?
Well, comparing it to, let's say, to hunters itself, is they're for that, right? Like they're a group that their mission is just capturing animals and sea beasts and things that roam the seas everywhere. Where in piracy, you're trying to steal this thing over here, try to, go to your pirate co and up your ranking, and mostly that's stealing and pillaging. Where a rascal team would just be per little mission or something that it's not like illegal per se.
Yeah. What are your thoughts,
Piracy.
Andrew?
Got to have the piracy, right? I guess in this case, if they were hunting sea beasts that were owned by someone or on like protected land, that counts.
Yeah, in a reserve. Yeah, there you go.
It's a reserve. Like, oh, I'm hunting on the Kraken Reserve. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, you're crazy getting on that water. Second is it counts as piracy, so that's the special sauce I think that turns them from plucky adventurers on a boat to pirates.
Yeah, it's that relationship with the law again, that idea that, unless they're doing something illicit, they're not really pirates, they're an adventuring group.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean adventuring groups don't do illicit things, but you know what I mean? Like, that's one of the qualifying pirate factors.
Yeah. They're adventurers are like one session away from becoming pirates at any session.
Yeah, one session in a boat.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question here from the cartographer Elysium. How do you handle some of the darker or more unpleasant things about piracy without turning it grimdark? Like keel hauling, discipline, some of the more aggressive kind of behaviors. How could you manage that in a game or in a book?
Without it going straight to grimdark, I mean, first of all, like book is separate, but for players is like consent up front, make sure everyone knows what they're kind of getting into. But if you don't want it to go into like the obscene territory, you could fade to black on a lot of those situations or describe it without the lethality. So you could technically keel haul someone to some degree without killing them, and bringing it aboard and explain like the trauma that happens there, without it being like a final thing that occurs.
Yeah, like not delving too much on the details, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, don't dig into those details.
Yeah.
But I would also say they're your pirates, so you can decide how they discipline each other. If you're playing D&D, maybe you just get a timeout in a big block of ice for a day. Like there's other ways to discipline people. Maybe they get cut to half rations. Maybe they get shoved off on a desert island and left by themselves, or there's other things that you can do. If you don't want to go there, you can still make it feel like pirates without getting really violent. So that's what I would say is they're your pirates in your world. You decide where the lines are.
Yeah, you can do the extreme things without the grim dark side of it. For some reason, I started thinking of the D&D movie scene where they're like in the trailer, they jump into the ooze. And I was like, what if you have an ooze that you just punish people like the ice block? Like, go sit in the ooze for 10 minutes.
And your skin is like all burny from the acid, but that's it. Like, you just get a chemical peel, basically.
Yeah, it's a chemical peel.
There's like the old school where they put you like on the wooden thing, but instead of the wooden thing,
oh, the stocks,
yeah, the stocks.
They just stick you half in the ooze and then throw tomatoes at you.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Your head is out.
The ooze is happy. The person being punished is not dead. They get a chemical
or
peel.
People for you,
Yeah, exactly. Or so Kitoipoi has said half rations. We're back at accounting. No, because in D&D, if you do half rations, you can start inflicting fatigue and this kind of thing. So there are reasons why you might do that to a crew member that are not about the rations and are about the player themselves or the player experience. So what I'm saying basically is there's lots of different ways that you can do punishment or this kind of thing without getting really grimdark, if that's not the tone you're going for.
Yeah.
Great question here from Second-Hand Samurai. How big a crew should you have on board? So this is a really good question because generally, whether you're doing a book or a campaign, there's a certain number of characters that everyone can keep track of. That's the PCs and a couple of NPCs, or that's the main cast. But on a boat, there's more than 6 people. So how do you manage that? How do you manage that big group cast thing?
I always view it like anytime that you would narrate, say, like a village or a market, like there's always the background NPCs doing things, but then there's the ones that stand out in the story or the session. Because we only have so much bandwidth, like you mentioned, right? You can only keep track of the main players that are the main characters that the players are interacting with for the plot. or in the story itself. So yes, the ship may need like a crew of 100 plus, but you probably are going to have to keep it down to your quartermaster, your captain, your cabin boy, your cabin boy usually just because people are familiar with the term most often than not. And then maybe some other critical NPCs that you're going to feed into the story. So one of the cannoneers, someone who just handles the rigging, things like that. Depends on what your goal is.
Yeah, I think like head of the cannoneers. So like first gunsman, super important. Master carpenter, super important. Other carpenters, less important. But I think that as you said, like to keep it limited, you want to just like do trickle down essentially. So you want to make it a lot more hierarchical than it might actually have been, so that you just have like heads of department.
HR department for pirates.
Yeah, exactly. Dimmy says Doctor, Cook, Captain, Navigator, Master Carpenter, and Helmsman. So yeah, you can
counter.
Yeah, exactly. But you can decide what's important for your adventure. If you decide that the Doctor is not important, then the Doctor is not important. You go to the Doctor and then you came back fine. If you decide it's interesting, then have a Doctor. If you want to introduce 7 super interesting weird tropical diseases that spread through the ship, and then you need to be quarantined and you need to find a cure, and because that's another interesting thing about pirates, right? You're all stuck on a ship together. So if you want to run those kinds of adventures, Doctor's super interesting character. If you don't, maybe the Doctor's not important.
Yeah, you could just develop out of the crew, right? Like if the players or the people will know that the crew is larger than what's told to them, and then you can just kind of like flesh out the characters as needed as the plot develops, or even bring new people on board, right? Like you stop in ports. If you suddenly need a doctor for the next stretch of the story, the chapter, the game, guess who you just found in port?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I honestly, when you're dealing with a really big group cast, make sure that the ones that you choose to flesh out more, represent more, are ones that will be integral to parts of the story. So they'll be like go-to information givers, or go-to people that will be taken onto a landing party, or like there has to be some reason why they're important. Don't just talk about Jeffrey the third carpenter or something. Like have a reason why they're important and why the players or the main characters will need to talk to them, because otherwise you're creating more trouble for yourself in the long run.
Oh, you mean so I can't have the one crewmate that scrubs the deck change every single session? Just keep describing.
I mean, you totally can, but if you start repeating names, your players will notice, and they will strike up a relationship with him. Damn it, you know they will.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Just the unnamed NPC that should be there suddenly becomes the best Boblin the Goblin.
On the ship.
Yeah.
If there's one unimportant NPC that you should introduce, it is the ship's cat or other pet.
100%. The tiger.
Yeah, the tiger, right. The pirate tiger.
The pirate tiger.
I mean, in my world, the pirate tiger is the captain, but sure. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like you can have these kinds of animal mascots, and they can be a lot of fun as well. So that's an example of where, I've just given you a do this, and actually that's a great example of why you shouldn't do that. But yeah, in general, managing group cast, it's a really good question because it's tough. Again, in the pirate game that I play in on Fridays, most of our crew are nameless, interchangeable. They're called macaws. They're basically velociraptors with feathers like parrots. They're amazing. But because they are largely interchangeable, and that has become like a running joke as part of the thing, that means we never need to worry about them because it is always a macaw, and if the macaw gets a name, it probably dies by the end of that session. So that's another way to do it.
Yeah, give him a little primer. Like, oh no, he got a name.
No.
I love this macaw.
Kitoipoi says, I had a crew member on my player's ship called Crocodile Kate, and they imprinted on her instead of the NPC I meant to be the main one. Yes. Yes. And this is exactly, and this is the danger of introducing things that sound interesting, but you don't want them to be too interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially the danger with like piracy or anything that involves like a crew and a ship is unlike, the village that the players are going to adventure in from, X to Z. the ship keeps going. Like you're going to keep accruing these things along the journey and not be able to lose them. And then it's just an exercise of insanity to keep track of all that. So that's definitely one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to keep piling in the cool stuff as much as we want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in my games, if I have more than like 5 NPCs, they have a World Anvil page where I'll just be like, the NPCs in this region are, and then I'll list them, and they'll have like little spin-off articles that you can go and check out. Because players cannot remember more than 5 things at once, and that's fair.
Yeah. That's a perfect reason to use World Anvil, right? Because you can document where you're running into people. Who'd have think it? Who'd have thunk it?
Every time you name an NPC into World Anvil, quick, before it disappears. Yeah. Well, I mean, that is actually all the pirate talk we have time for today. But just before we go, why should we go on event.cruises? Why should we come and join your amazing cruises?
Oh, well, of course, first to see you guys, like that's 100% the reason. And then of course see you guys and vacation, and then see you guys on vacation and play some D&D on the D20 cruise. Or if you have other interests like wargaming or gaming and cosplay and just having a good time, like come aboard. It's a great time. We try to keep it nice mix of activities between the cruise vacation itself and then the hobby that we bring aboard with us, because there's no reason why we need to leave our hobbies behind.
100%. I mean, the whole reason is what? Community, right? Meet like-minded people and then visit new places you haven't been to before and eat a lot of food. Like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so much food.
You don't have to worry about half rations on these boats.
Oh, yeah.
Drunken Panda, who actually came to the cruise and we played D&D together and it was awesome, says, because they are awesome.
Yes.
So you have one happy customer there.
Thank you. We love Drunken Pandas.
So if you are interested in coming to join me and Andrew and Frank and Demetrius on a cruise next April, we will be leaving from Los Angeles in April in 2023 and going on a 4-day adventure,
right.
I believe. A 4-day RPG adventure, the likes of which you have never experienced. I did not have a bad table. I played so many games. I never played at a bad table. Everybody was so friendly. Everybody was so fun. I ran games. I played in other people's games. And yeah, it was just a great big game extravaganza. It was everything you would want from something called a gaming cruise. So I cannot recommend this enough. It is amazing fun. And if you really, really, really want to go, like Autumn Nine Tails does, then you may be interested to know that in summer camp this year, we are giving away a cruise.
Yes, we are.
That will be the 4-day cruise, right? That's the April cruise next year.
Yep, that's right. We'll be giving a cabin away for the D20 cruise, and then they'll get to see you guys.
ECC Book says, I want that prize. So I will tell you that this will be available only to people who have completed all 31 prompts. This is the grand prize this year, guys. So this will be diamond prompt category only, because come on, if you did 31 prompts, you deserve a cruise, right?
100% deserve a vacation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want this cruise, 31 prompts, and cross your fingers for the prize draw, and hopefully it will be you that comes and plays D&D with Andrew and Frank and me and Demetrius and a bunch of other amazing beans. So that's what's going down. And tomorrow, when we have the diamond prompt reveal, yes, that is the final 7 prompts for summer camp, we will also be raffling off a big old bag of swag from these guys. So make sure you tune in for that, not just to hear the prompts, but also for the best raffle ever. I think that it is time that we said some thank yous. So Andrew and Frank, first of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Very
Thank you
much
guys for having
appreciated.
us.
Yeah, always fun.
Oh, it's just so much. It's so much fun chatting with you. That's basically what we did. We just played D&D, ate, and chat a lot. It was awesome. It was awesome, and we do love pirates. A big thank you to Kitopoi, Nerd Building, Akimotos, Elven Shoes, Shadow Phoenix for all of those subscriptions. You are amazing. And just a reminder that tomorrow we're going live with our Diamond Prompt Reveal. Don't miss. And on Sunday, we'll be doing a virtual write-in. So if you are behind on your prompts or you want to get ahead, then make sure you tune in on Sunday for a write-in stream where you can do your prompts live and chat with others as well. I would like to invite you all to stick around for Evan Blair Art, an Anvilite with incredible artistic clout. He is going to be doing some incredible painting, drawing, creation of glorious things. So stick around and shout out Light Up the Forge when you get there to let him know that we sent you. And in the meantime, why not grab your hammer and go world build? See you soon, guys. Bye.